Now everybody, welcome back to Retro Gamer Diaries. You know, when I first started playing home video games, I leaned mainly to arcade game ports and arcade style games. Plenty of shoot 'em ups, beat 'em ups or racing games. You know, the Afterburners, the Golden Axes, the Space Harriers and Outruns, those were the games that I used to play. But I suppose as time went on, I started to explore and enjoy platform games such as Sonic the Hedgehog. Such a great game, it was fast and exciting. And that's what really kind of got me into platform games. Now, I was aware that there was plenty other platform games out there too, including the Disney games. But I have to say, I never really ventured into a Disney game. It wasn't really my cup of tea. No, not really, come on. I was much more into Batman and the Terminator or the Alien films, and the games that came from that as well. Not a Disney game, not flipping Snow White or that Cinderella, no way. I just didn't have any love for any of these Disney characters. Disney just came across to me as perhaps a bit kiddie and just not cool enough to show off to my mates. I could hardly see myself coming home from the pub on a Friday night and come on guys, let's play a game, and it was a Disney game. Not cool, not cool. However, that all changed when I decided for some reason to buy Castle of Illusion on my Sega Mega Drive, or the Genesis as you guys call it in America. So I gave it a go, and it was at that point I started to appreciate that a game could be a great game regardless of its genre or subject matter. I was genuinely and pleasantly surprised how good this game was. In fact, it's still a good game today. Okay, it didn't have the speed and excitement of, say, the first level of Sonic the Hedgehog, which I bought at the same time, I have to say. But that was the point of this game, it was not trying to be Sonic. It was a totally different game, and it was a game in its own right, and I have to say I really do appreciate this game much more today. In fact, Christ, I was so impressed that I even went out to purchase all the other Mickey Mouse games for my Mega Drive. So, today I wanted to revisit all these Mickey Mouse games that I bought on the Sega Genesis Mega Drive and give you my thoughts of these games and then rank them from worst to best. So let's get started. Okay, first up for our cute jolly mouse is the game I just mentioned, Castle of Illusion, great game. So let's start by looking at the intro. So, Castle of Illusion is a side-scrolling platform in which the player takes control of Mickey Mouse as he goes inside the Castle of Illusion in order to rescue Minnie Mouse from an evil witch named Miserable, who wants to steal Minnie's youth and beauty. Upon meeting and conversing with the castle's true owner and king, Mickey is told that in order to defeat Miserable, he must find the 7 gems of the rainbow. The majority of the 7 gems are kept within various illusion-filled worlds and are being guarded by Miserable's henchmen, which are known as the Masters of Illusion. Alongside the Masters of Illusion is Miserable's army. The army consists of bizarre creatures such as enchanted mushrooms, toy soldiers, ball juggling, unicycled riding clowns, spiders and armoured knights. After thanking the Castellan and hurrying into the castle hallway, Mickey begins to search through 5 doors that each leads to a different level. The levels are the Enchanted Forest, Toyland, the Storm, Desert Factory, the Library, and finally, the Castle. Now, there is an easy mode available where players can play through truncated versions of the first 3 levels with no boss fights. But that's a bit boring, so we're going to avoid this and get into the main game using the normal level. So let's look at the first level, the Enchanted Forest. Now, Mickey's main method of attack is to perform a bounce while jumping, which can be used to defeat enemies or to bounce upwards towards higher areas. Mickey can collect projectiles such as apples and marbles to throw at his opponents too. And there's also various items that earn bonus points, increase the player's health and grant extra lives. Okay, we're in the boss area where you fight the first of the game's 6 bosses. I guess I would describe it as a tree with an evil mad face. And every level ends in a boss battle against each Master of Illusion, where Mickey can earn a gem, although the final 2 levels award a gem halfway through. After clearing all 5 levels, obtaining all gems will open the route to the Witch Tower. There the player faces the final boss, a giant and youthful version of Miserable, and we will get to that in a second. Okay, and after defeating the boss, the first of the 7 gems, the red gem, will drop down for you to grab and you have beaten the first level of the game. Great stuff, great stuff. Next is the Toyland level. Let's have a look. Now, in this level, the key which we're after is several stories above you, and to reach it, you must climb a seemingly endless and somewhat repetitive series of stairs. Now, I have to say I would normally find this type of design to be mind-numbing, but the action kept up the entire time. For me, personally, the enemies were spaced just right so that I couldn't coast, and the path would occasionally have pathways that led to items or health refills. Then, just when it felt like I was about to run out of patience, I grabbed the key and suddenly all the steps turn into slopes. And now Mickey will start running rapidly down them. A trail of several white gems will appear, so you've got to follow it and run down the slopes and leap across the gaps, getting as many of these white gems as you possibly can. Now, I have to say, I got a surprise when those steps turned into a slope. You know, it wasn't enough just to end the sequence. Castle of Illusion, at its most risky of venture into blandness, instead paid off the worst part of the game with an exhilarating reward, and it was awesome. And I think it was at that point for me that I have started to feel that this is where we're crossing over from a quality title to an unforgettable legend. Okay, let's have a brief look at the rest of the Toyland levels and then we'll have a look at the boss fight. That part of the game where the level turns upside down was again unexpected and brilliant. Although I have to say it does take a moment to readjust to playing upside down. Brilliant though, brilliant. Okay, the boss fight is an enemy with the body of a parcel with spring shoes and blue boxing gloves. And when the battle is won, you get the orange gem and you have beaten this level. Okay, level 3, the storm. Let's have a quick look at that. Okay, it's time for a boss fight. The boss is a reptile creature enemy that comes out of a totem pole-like stack of stone statues. After the stack of 5 statues has raised up from the ground, a frog enemy will drop down from the top statue. You need to hit this fella on the head with a bounce attack. The only tricky part with this is that the boss tends to bounce around a lot. So if you can anticipate where it will go with its jumps, you should be able to catch it out with a bounce attack. Attacking this way until all stone statues are cleared, and then you've won. Yet again, your reward for winning this boss battle is the yellow gem. Okay, now we're in level 4, the library. A really interesting level, I like this level. Let's have a look at this level up to the boss. Okay, now we're in the boss area of the level, a long-bodied red dragon that dwells in the milk bottle. And after winning this boss fight, you get the blue gem and beat the level. Okay, this is level 5, the castle, and it's the last level. Getting closer to confronting that Miserable. Okay, so here we are, the last area of the castle, and as you expect is a boss battle, and the penultimate boss of the game. Let's have a look. I think the boss you could describe as a fat, ugly ogre with a mallet. When you win, you get the violet gem, and that's it, you've got all 7. Mickey returns to the main castle and you'll see a cutscene in which he makes a rainbow bridge with the gems that lead into the tower where Minnie is being held. We now need to fight one final boss battle against Miserable. Well, there you go. Let's have a look at the ending. At the time of its release, Castle of Illusion received positive reviews. Mean Machines gave the Sega Mega Drive Genesis version of the game a positive review, awarding a score of 95% while specifically praising the game's graphics and playability. I quite agree with that. Console XS gave an overall score of 96% and praised the graphics, sound, gameplay and the dynamic gameplay. Mega Action gave a review score 90% and described the game as a classic game with a massive playing area. They also praised the graphics and sound, concluding, "We guarantee that you will not be disappointed." Megatech say that the game is one of the best platform games on the Mega Drive and praised the game that it combines superlative graphics and excellent gameplay, making Castle of Illusion addictive and an enjoyable challenge. Entertainment Weekly picked the game as the 19th greatest game available in 1991, saying that the game is perfect for younger players but challenging enough to satisfy adults too. A superbly animated Mickey bops through 3 different worlds, the Enchanted Forest, Toyland and Desert Factory, in a quest to save Minnie from the evil witch Miserable. Mega placed it at the 21st spot on their 1992 list of the top Mega Drive games of all time. And according to GameSpot in 2010, it wasn't just the levels that made the game so good. The music, the controls and Mickey's superb animation all contributed to one of the very best Disney games that would heavily influence those to follow. 2017, GamesRadar placed the game 35th on its best Sega Genesis Mega Drive games of all time. So, what's my thoughts of this game? Mickey's track record up to this point was pretty poor when it came to video games. Previous attempts at to incorporate the world's most famous mouse were often lame cash-ins to capitalise on Mickey's perpetual popularity. And Sega's Castle of Illusion came out and showed that it was possible to make not only a great Mickey Mouse game, but one that could compete with the platforming juggernauts of the era. I have to say, if you take a look at pretty much any best of the Sega Genesis Mega Drive lists, and Castle of Illusion is bound to show up. I have to say, I'm always a little bit sceptical when it comes to these such lists, because halfway through this first level, my skepticism was blasted when my sense was sirens. Initial thoughts and my first impression is that this is a slow-paced platformer I've ever encountered. No run button and Mickey's walking speed on a quest to rescue his main squeeze, mind you, could be best described as lacking in urgency. I was starting to think, come on, get your feet moving, or do you just want to see Minnie die? By the time I finished that first level, I was starting to feel very different about the game, because Castle of Illusion is pretty damn good. Not by the standards of 1990, but by today's standards. The game is still good fun to play today. Castle of Illusion took elements from Mickey's cartoon universe and integrated them in a way that allowed for magnificent varied environments. That giant bookshelf world, which was contained in a milk bottle cake world, was a particular highlight for most. It wasn't just the levels that made this game so good, there was the music, the controls and Mickey's superb animation, which all contributed to one of the very best Disney games that would heavily influence those to follow. Castle of Illusion is a nearly perfect game for 2 hours, and when it's done, this is one of those rare amazing games where that's totally fine. Sink an hour or two into your play session with it and have a good time crushing enemies with Mickey's buns of steel. Shake your head at how visuals that were state of the art in 1990 could somehow still look so gorgeous so many years later. We'll have boss fights that are surprisingly deeper than you would expect, if a bit too spongy. Marvel at the fine-tuned level design, and when it's all over, you'll walk away happy and content. This is definitely worth checking out. Hell, I think Castle of Illusion will hold up for centuries. Give it a go. So, what's next for our friendly little mouse? Well, I have to say, after playing Castle of Illusion, it wasn't long before I purchased Fantasia, which was loosely based on the film of the same name. My expectations for this game were quite high. This was going to be a great game, isn't it? Well, let's just find out. Firstly, it's fair to say that Sega was inspired by the success of Castle Illusion, and with the 50th anniversary of the 1940 Fantasia film, it seemed quite logical to create the Fantasia game. Development began in January 1990. The Sega producer Scott Bearfield, along with Stephen Butler, monitored Infogrames' development of the game to ensure it remained a faithful adaptation. However, the development team consisted only of 6 people, which lacked experience in developing console games. No experience? Okay, that's not a great start, is it? Then, also with the pressure from Holiday Rush and the summer release of Sonic the Hedgehog, time to develop the game was tight. And during that time, the inexperienced team were finding it particularly difficult to replicate the animation and music quality of the film to the 16-bit console. By May, Sega presented Fantasia at the Consumer Electronics Show, and by mid-summer was showcased at the Tech Toy launch. With no time to tweak the gameplay or polish the graphics, the game was shipped in time for the holiday season. How did it go? Well, let's find out. But first of all, let's look at the game. So here we go. The player controls Mickey Mouse as the sorcerer's apprentice through various side-scrolling levels in an attempt to collect musical notes that went missing whilst he was asleep. The game's 4 levels were based on segments of Fantasia, with each one themed around the elements water, earth, air and fire. The player defeats various enemies by jumping on them or by collecting magical bubbles that could be used to shoot at enemies as projectiles. In each level, the player collects a certain number of hidden magical notes in order for the song to play once again. Anyway, let's continue looking at the game. So, was the game a success? So, how did the game go? Well, for a start, the release of Fantasia was met with complaints by Roy E. Disney, who made a promise to his Uncle Walt that Fantasia adaptations would not be made. Shit, that's not good, is it? The licensing turned out to be granted in error, for crying out loud. And as a result, sales of the game were to stop, every unsold copy was to be destroyed, and every advertisement about the game was to be removed. Gee, shit, that's not good. And on top of that, the reception for the game was frosty to say the least. The game was poorly received with Megatech magazine, saying the game was a massive disappointment, poorly designed, bland and frustrating with very little appeal. Mean Machine said that although appearing impressive at first, with excellent sprites and gorgeous backdrops, the gameplay is badly flawed and there are several highly annoying features that make the action frustrating. Gameplay's 4 reviewers gave average to below average reviews. They anonymously praised the graphics and animations but also criticised the gameplay, calling it a choppy, substandard and awkward game. Mega Action gave Fantasia an overall score of 80% and praised the cartoon-like animation and criticised the game's difficulty set far too high. Console XS initially praised the graphics as outstanding and the animation and scrolling as superb. However, they went on to criticise the game, saying that the game is full of poor collision detection, frustrating restart points and repetitive gameplay. Oh, tough. The 4 reviewers of Electronic Gaming Monthly gave average reviews, praising the graphics, animation and game music, but then went on to criticise the game's controls and gameplay, calling it repetitive, clunky and unpredictable, and said that Fantasia does not measure up to Castle of Illusion. Ouch. And then lastly, Mega placed the game at number 6 in their list of the 10 worst Mega Drive games of all time. Ooh, that's not good. With regards to my opinion, the game is a disappointment. I was so wanting this game to be good. Fantasia should have been a great game and better than Castle Illusion. Unfortunately, it's not. The controls are absolutely abysmal, being extremely sluggish and unresponsive. They're also extremely stiff, and Mickey takes almost, if not 1 entire second to turn himself. It's so bad that it's ruining the entire game, and they just aren't made for the level design. And with regards to the level design, well, that's unbelievably terrible, with horrible platform placements and some terrible enemy placement for most of the game. It's also not made for the extremely terrible controls of this game. Due to this reason, this game can be considered one of, if not the worst Mickey Mouse game ever made. Many times it's impossible to evade obstacles, the enemies change patterns at random, and at other times it's insanely hard not to enter secret zones by touching fairies. The level design gets worse as you progress also. The difficulty of the game is so unbalanced, it's downright appalling. The reason why the difficulty is unbalanced is because of the awful enemy placements and even the awful controls themselves. Possibly the most unbalanced Disney game on a Sega Genesis due to how abysmal the difficulty of the game is. There are only 4 main levels with just 2 or 3 bonus stages in each stage, which makes the game extremely short, and you can beat it in only 30 minutes if you're very good at the game. Even Castle Illusion was a bit longer than this game. There are unholy graphical layouts, all because of the fact that they get in the way of players, not allowing them to see enemies or obstacles. At times they don't allow you to see part of the stage, and sometimes hazards like moving sand are impossible to separate from normal terrain, or in the worst case you don't realise what a platform is or what isn't. In fact, this ruins the game even more since a platform requires a very precise jump in order to jump, and you can easily not see it. Worse, some of these even hide items that you really need. During the game, every area is packed with a lot of enemies that want to kill you. Even worse, the placement seems to be random. It's so bad that it's given most Busby games a run for their money, since these games also have this problem sometimes. Your main weapon is a shooting spell, but the problem is that you have only 3 and you run out of them quickly, and the game is very stingy about giving more. Also have to collect at least an exact number of musical notes for each level. If you fail, you have to start the level all over again. It's just blatant padding design to extend the length of the game to make up for its short length. In regards to the music, these are terrible renditions of the classical pieces of music that were chosen from the film, which is unacceptable considering that the film had one of the greatest soundtracks in cinema history, and not to mention there are plenty of Sega Genesis games that had better renditions of classical music. There's also no boss fights in the entire game, although I have to say that could be a good thing due to how terrible the controls are. I didn't enjoy the final level either. It has dark sections where you cannot see the platforms, which makes everything worse since the level design is extremely bad and there is a lot of enemies trying to kill you again. And to finish the final level, you basically must do an enemy rush, and it's extremely tedious and almost impossible. Such a shite level. The ending of the game is also horrible and very underwhelming. It's just Mickey that evaluates someone and that's it, nothing else. Finally, as I mentioned earlier, the game was rushed for the Christmas market and VHS release of the film. Due to that, the game was left in a pretty unfinished state. So there you go, it's a disappointment of a game. But hey ho, on to the next game. Ah, that's much better. World of Illusion starring Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck. This game is a platform game developed and published by Sega for the Sega Genesis. The game was released in December 1992 and is part of the Sega Illusion series of Mickey Mouse games. The game was also included on the Sega Genesis Mini. In the plot, well, whilst preparing for a magical act, Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck discover a magical box. However, this turns out to belong to an evil magician, Pete, who sends Mickey and Donald to a magical world. Mickey and Donald must now work together in order to find a way back home. Excellent. Now, players can either play solo as either Mickey Mouse or Donald Duck, or cooperatively with 2 players controlling Mickey and Donald while sharing from the same pool of tries. Now, I have to say, this game is brilliant in 2-player. It really is. Mickey and Donald can run, jump, or attack by flourishing their capes. Enemies defeated in this way turn into doves, cards, or other harmless objects depending on the enemy. And after defeating the boss of each level, a new magical spells are learned, allowing the player to use this at the next level. And this includes flying on a magic carpet or going underwater in an air bubble. Now, the gameplay changes significantly depending on the characters chosen. For example, Mickey can squeeze through certain gaps while Donald must find a different route, leading him to entirely different realms. And when playing in 2-player mode, the players can stand on each other's shoulders and use ropes to help each other out. And Mickey can pull Donald through gaps his tail feathers prevent him from fitting through. I love that. World of Illusion comprises of 5 principal stages named the Enchanted Forest, Among the Clouds, Underwater Adventure, the Library and the Magic Box. There also exist within these 5 stages 3 sets of sub-stages, some of which are optional, which are accessible only while playing either as Mickey or as Donald in 1-player mode or in 2-player mode. So let's have a look at these levels. The game's music, artwork and animation shows influences from the Disney animated films, including Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Pinocchio, Fantasia, Sleeping Beauty, The Sword in the Stone and The Little Mermaid, as well as others. Some of the influences are directly literal, such as the appearance of the playing card soldiers from Disney's 1951 film adaptation of Alice in Wonderland in the Castle Garden section of the Magic Box stage. With regards to the reception of this game, Megatech gave the game 90% and a Hyper Game Award, saying that it had the best graphics of any Disney game yet, but said that it was very easy to finish. Mega gave the game an 82% score, saying it was very easy to complete and dull on one player, but fantastic for a couple of youngsters. Bad Influence scored it a full 10 out of 10 stars in 2017. And Games Radar ranked the game 22nd on their best Sega Genesis Mega Drive games of all time list. So I have to say I love this game. The game features beautiful colourful visuals that capture the magic of Disney. Each level is uniquely designed, making the game visually appealing. I love the soundtrack, it's delightful and fits well with the whimsical nature of the game. Sound effects are solid, although there is a lack of voice sampling. Overall, World Illusion is praised for its engaging gameplay and enchanting presentation, making it a standout title on the Genesis. For me, it's a great game. So much better than that Fantasia. Wow, it was rubbish. Okay, now we're on to the fourth Mickey game. Mickey's Ultimate Challenge is a puzzle video game developed by Designer Software and co-published by Walt Disney Computer Software and High Tech Expressions. Mickey is lying in bed reading a book of fairy tales. He thinks to himself how wonderful it would be to live in a faraway land in a magical castle. Then Mickey falls asleep and dreams that he learns of trouble in Beanswick. There appears to be a strange rumbling over the castle and no one can explain it. Mickey, or Minnie, volunteers to investigate. He must go through a series of challenges in various rooms of the castle in order to collect magic beans and items. So as I said, Mickey's Ultimate Challenge is a puzzle game where players must complete challenges to beat the game. Players must go through a series of challenges in various rooms of the castle in order to collect magic beans and items. So let's have a look at the game. In Guess the Tools, Goofy wants Mickey to guess what tools are in his toolbox. Mickey has 7 attempts to successively guess the tools and their order inside Goofy's toolbox. After each guess, a clue appears telling players how many and which tools they guessed in the correct order. In the easier games, the hints will turn red or green to denote correctness. In the more difficult games, a small quartered square or red and green pieces tells Mickey which ones are right. Players must correctly guess what is in Goofy's toolbox to earn an item from him. In Moving Portions, Mickey is shrunk to a tiny size and placed on a chest-like game board. Potion bottles are on this board as well as block obstacles that must be manoeuvred around. The potion bottles are to be pushed into a magic mirror on the board. In more difficult games, there are more boards to play in an increasing difficulty. Once all potions have been collected, the player returns to normal size and receives their item from Donald Duck, dressed as a wizard. That's nice, isn't it? Okay, now we're in sorting books. Books are floating up and down in the library of Beanswick Castle, and Mickey must sort them in alphabetical order by jumping on them. Depending on the difficulty, there are various numbers of books to be sorted and different patterns for the books to float in. Only a portion of the alphabet must be sorted. And once the books have been sorted, players receive an item from Horace Horsecollar. Now we're on to playing the pipes, which is another memory game. Several pipes light up and make different noises in a pattern that builds every turn. Mickey must listen, remember and repeat what he heard. He can do this by jumping on the top of the pipes and playing the notes back in the proper order. The pipes only play one melody, adding one note after every time Mickey successfully completes the previous one. The difficulty of gameplay determines the length of the melody. Players must play all the right pipes to receive the item from Huey, Dewey and Louie. This level is called Picture Matching and it is a timed memory challenge. Mickey must dust off portraits hanging on the castle walls in matching pairs. Basically, it's the matching card game. He must complete this task before the lights in the castle dim to darkness. Depending on the difficulty, there are more or fewer pictures. For challenges with more pictures, more time is given. He is armed with a feather duster and a sliding ladder. Players must match up all pictures before time and light runs out to receive an item from Daisy Duck as a princess. Okay, now we're on exchanging items, the last level. The items Mickey collected were of no importance to their previous owners, but would serve useful to others in Beanswick. Mickey must go back to all the others in each challenge and give them the item that suits them. In return of each correctly placed item, Mickey receives a magic bean. Only after retrieving all 5 beans can Mickey use them. And after returning the items to their respective owners, Mickey visits the well. And this is where the annoying rumbling occurs again, and Mickey throws his beans near the well. Suddenly, a giant beanstalk grows straight up into the clouds. And our curious little Mickey climbs the beanstalk into the clouds and encounters a giant. Yeah, look, if there's a giant beanstalk outside your garden, don't climb it. There's always a giant at the top of it. Anyway, the giant is sound asleep and snoring. This massive snoring is the cause of the trouble of Beanswick. There is a scrambled picture of an alarm clock standing next to the giant. Mickey must unscramble the picture by sliding the pieces and wake up the giant. After Mickey wakes up and talks to the giant, the troubles in Beanswick are solved. Now, I have to say, Mickey's Ultimate Challenge has received generally mixed reviews from their gaming magazines. Electronic Gaming Monthly gave the Genesis version a 6.25 out of 10. They remarked that the game is much too easy for puzzle veterans, but would be good fun for younger players. For me, the game is a little bit kiddie. The graphics in the game are pretty decent though. Okay, the Genesis has certainly seen a lot better, but still, the graphics in this game are satisfactory. There were some parts in the game where the graphics were slightly blurry in a few places, but they're okay all the same. One strong point of the game is that the music and sound effects in this game were very well done. There is a different kind of music for every area that you visit, showing variety in the different areas, and the sound effects fit the actions being done very well. Neither of the two ever became annoying and were very enjoyable during the game. To sum it up, the challenges are very different between areas, giving you a lot of variety. Plus, you can choose which puzzle to tackle first, giving you some freedom in the game. The difficulty levels are exactly what they say they are. Cake is just like that, cake. Medium is more difficult than cake, and challenging is actually pretty hard. The puzzles are pretty fun to do, and the item hunt is kind of fun, although its answers are obvious. However, here is where the game runs into trouble. The game is extremely short, I mean really short. On medium difficulty, the game can be beaten in about 15 minutes at most, cake is about 10 minutes at most, and challenging may take about 25 minutes to 30. As you can see, this game is short and will take no time at all to beat on all 3 difficulties. So for me, the game is pretty enjoyable, but its length prevents it from being as good as it could be. You will find the game challenging on the harder difficulty, so that will keep you busy for a little while. However, the game is okay and will be enjoyed by just about everyone. I would say the game's worth a try, but I have to say it's not as good as Castle Illusion or anywhere near the quality of World of Illusion, but certainly better than that shite Fantasia. Okay, now we're on to the Great Circus Mystery starring Mickey and Minnie. It was later titled Disney's Magical Quest 2 starring Mickey and Minnie. The game was released for the Mega Drive Genesis in 1994. The game features Mickey Mouse and Minnie trying to figure out why everyone in the circus has disappeared and includes 4 different outfits and 6 different levels. The game received praise for its graphics and outfit system, but was criticised for its difficulty and length. So what's the plot? Well, Mickey and Minnie Mouse travel by bus to the circus at the edge of town where they are going to spend the day. When the bus arrives, a little late, Goofy appears and tells Mickey and Minnie that everyone in the circus tent has disappeared. Now, Mickey and Minnie are surprised by Goofy's claim, but choose to go to the circus and see it for their own eyes. At the circus, they realise that their friends Pluto and Donald are gone. Therefore, Mickey and Minnie must now find out what's going on at the circus. In a single player game, the player can choose to play as either Mickey or Minnie. But the choice makes no difference to gameplay and is purely aesthetic. Moreover, the game features 2-player cooperative gameplay. That's much better. Another new feature is a password backup, allowing the players to continue where they stopped playing the game. I like that. The Great Circus Mystery Star Mickey and Minnie features 4 different outfits. The default outfit allows Mickey and Minnie to grab certain objects, including some enemies, and spin throw them away. The first unlockable outfit, the Sweeper outfit, allows Mickey and Minnie to suck up certain enemies with their vacuum cleaner. And if an enemy is sucked up using the vacuum cleaner outfit, then the enemy turns into a coin. Using this vacuum cleaner consumes battery power though, which can be refilled by collecting battery items. The second unlockable outfit, the Safari Suit, allows Mickey and Minnie to climb walls, slide down from vines, ropes, and swing from special circular blocks. The third and final unlockable outfit, the cowboy outfit, includes a hobby horse and a pop gun. The hobby horse grants Mickey and Minnie a higher jump, and the pop gun allows Mickey and Minnie to damage enemies by firing corks at them. Firing a cork decreases the power meter, which can be refilled by collecting cork gun items. Additionally, the hobby horse allows Mickey and Minnie to use the Move Desperado Dash, which sends them flying through the air but drains the power meter slightly, so be careful. The Great Circus Mystery received mixed to positive reviews. The easy difficulty and length of the game were criticised, while the colourful graphics, outfit system and music received mostly praise. The new cooperative gameplay feature was considered to be one of the game's greatest strengths. Well, Delusion done that first. However, on the negative side, some critics noted that the Great Circus Mystery was very similar to the previous game. Much like the first game in the series, the game was mostly recommended for younger players. On release, Famicom Susan scored the game a 26 out of 40. Next Generation reviewed the Genesis version of the game, rating it 2 stars out of 5, and stated that compared to Sony Imagisoft's Mickey Mania, the Great Circus Mystery is just a great big disappointment. Oh, that's not good. These are average reviews really, aren't they? However, for me, I kinda agree. This game is much easier than the Castle of Illusion, and it's really targeted for younger gamers. It's not a bad game, and I suppose the 2-player mode is good. Well, it's better than the first single-player game. And while it is too easy for veterans, I suppose beginners will find Great Circus Mystery as fun and gentle as a sunny day at Disneyland. It's an okay game, still better than that poopy game Fantasia. That game's rubbish. Okay, now we're on to our last Mickey game. Mickey Mania, The Timeless Adventures of Mickey Mouse, is a 1994 platform video game developed by Traveller's Tales and published by Sony Imagesoft. In the game, the player controls Mickey Mouse, who must navigate through various side-scrolling levels, each designed and based on classical Mickey Mouse cartoons. Originally, Mickey Mania was planned to be released to coincide with Mickey's 65th birthday in 1993. However, as that would have only allowed for 6 months to develop the game, the idea was soon scrapped in favour of a more compelling concept of Mickey travelling back in time to his own original classic cartoons. Spot on. So this game pays tribute to Mickey's early cartoon career. The game was designed by David Jaffes, who would later create God of War for the Sony. Mickey Mania is a platformer in which players control Mickey Mouse as he visits various locations based on his past cartoons, ranging from his debut in Steamboat Willie to the more recent The Prince and the Pauper. Mickey can attack enemies by either jumping on them or by using a limited supply of marbles, which are collected throughout the level. Mickey can take up to 5 hits, represented by the fingers he holds up in his hand. And this can be replenished by collecting stars, while extra lives can be gained by finding Mickey hats. Levels offer a variety of challenges, such as puzzles the player must solve, escaping from a rampaging moose, and fleeing from the flaming staircase. I remember that staircase level. Bloody hard. The levels in the game are based from the following classic Mickey Mouse cartoons: Steamboat Willie from 1928, The Mad Doctor from 1933, The Band Concert from 1935, Moose Hunters from 1937, Lonesome Ghost from 1937, Mickey and the Beanstalk from 1947, and then finally The Prince and the Pauper from 1990. So let's look at all of those levels now. Now, on release, Famicom Subin scored the Genesis version 30 out of 40. GamePro gave the Genesis version a mixed review, applauding the visual style of playing inside old cartoons, commenting that the blend of past and present is magical, but criticised the game as too easy. GamePro concluded that if Mickey's not your thing, you won't appreciate this cart, but if you liked any of Mickey's other games, you won't miss with Mickey Mania. Next Generation reviewed the Genesis version, rating it 4 stars out of 5. Ingenious action like Mickey carefully mixing a potion while being attacked from every side makes it hard to put down. The game went on to then win the 1994 Parents' Choice Award. Nice. And what's my say about the game? Well, for me, the gameplay closely resembles that of Sega's Illusion series of Disney titles, particularly that Castle of Illusion. Mickey's ways of dealing opposition is the tried and true platformer bop from above and from flinging marbles collected in the stage. But what sets Mania apart is the more fluid sprite animation, thanks in part with the talent of Walt Disney's own Florida-based animation studio. This smoothness and level of movement puts the graphics in the same level as Virgin Interactive's Aladdin and Shiny's Earthworm Jim, especially drawing from the ink and paint style Mickey was birthed from. Traveller's Tales and Sony both pulled some impressive programming trickery to create some roll and scale and 3D effects with sprites not unlike Tower Toppler that serve no ties to the original source material but merely to show off. The Moose Hunters level, while brief, ends with an extended toward the screen chase from the mad Elsa's beast as you leap over rocks and puddles that trip you up or slow you down. It's that added touch that helps separate Mickey Mania from the other earlier titles in terms of aesthetics, like its fellow season rival Disney's Magical Quest 2, The Great Circus Mystery, starring Mickey and Mania. However, as much as the novelty of the use of Disney in-house animation and the seldom used trek through past appearances, the game itself is a rather average platformer affair. Much of the game is typical hop and bop action done before, even in Mickey games by Sega years prior, with only some swinging ropes thrown in and a rather tedious push block and switch button puzzles. The biggest killer for this game is the hit detection. Mickey tends to get damaged by any foe that invades his personal space rather than merely on his body, which is made worse by his shape squashing and stretching in his jump cycle, leading to his feet grazing threats as he begins to land. Worse yet, everything else from the enemies and pickups seem to be disproportionately follow the opposite rules, needed to be in contact just right in order to be hurt or picked up, leading to wasted marbles or frustrating just out of reach items passing through Mickey's gloved fingers or his ears. And Mickey is definitely out of his element dealing with aerial foes, that's bats, butterflies, parrots and dragonflies, all whizzing through the sky, hard to shoot down with marbles while hard to pinpoint a boot stomp from above. A little frustrating. The Mad Doctor, Beanstalk and the Prince and the Pauper levels suffer the worst of the cheap hits as they become gauntlets of dodging large enemies and projectiles. The skeletons and weasel enemies serve as the most maddening to face as the former explode into dangerous bone shrapnel upon defeat and the weasels constantly fire knives and arrows from the off-screen while only vulnerable to precious marble ammo, and both enemies are legion in their respective stages. Only a slow and pensive mouse can make it through these stages unscathed. And then finally, I have to say I was slightly disappointed that this game was not a two-player game like the World of Illusion. Mickey tackles this game all alone. Albeit that stupid dog Pluto, he seems to hang around but he doesn't do anything, he's useless. However, I have to say, despite all that, this is still a good game and certainly looks the best of the bunch. I mean, Mickey Mania's promise is a game where for the first time you're playing in an actual cartoon, and for that part it's certainly true. It's a great looking game. Well, there you go, that was all 6 Mickey games covered on the Mega Drive and Genesis. Mickey Mouse is certainly one of the most recognisable characters with children worldwide. Well, at least until a certain super plumber hit homes. So, it's no surprise that he's been a regular go-to and popular license in video games for years. But which one of these 6 Mega Drive Genesis games will be crowned as the King of the Mice? How do I rank these 6 games? Well, let's start off with number 6, the least popular one, which was quite easy for me to decide, and that game is Fantasia. This game was just a rush game from an inexperienced development team. With only 4 levels, this game was repetitive, clunky, unbalanced, and just a bit boring really. And that's a damn shame because it certainly had the blueprint to be a great game from a cult movie with amazing soundtrack. Unfortunately, they made a goofy game instead. Just disappointing. Now for 5th place. Now that goes to Mickey's Ultimate Challenge. For me, this game was far too easy and just way too short. I mean, I finished this game in 30 minutes. I mean, I've played demos longer than this game. Now for 4th place, and that goes to the Great Circus Mystery. This is definitely an okay game, but again, for me, this game is just too easy. I mean, it's much easier than Castle of Illusion, and it's really only targeted for the younger gamers. Not my cup of tea. Okay, now we're in for 1st, 2nd and 3rd. And the 3rd game goes to Castle of Illusion. This is the first game on the Genesis and Mega Drive, and it still has that magical winning touch. I definitely could play this game again. It's a good game. Now it's getting tough. I really struggled between 1st and 2nd, but for 2nd place, it's a tough one, but this goes to Mickey Mania. This game, for me, definitely has the best graphics. It is a looker, but I have to say it's only 1 player. And for me, that's where the next game absolutely takes the crown. On first place, it goes to World of Illusion. This is my first choice out of the 6 games. The graphics and gameplay is just great. For me, this is probably the best 2-player platformer game you'll get on the Genesis. It's a brilliant experience. And although the graphics were perhaps not as good as Mania, they're still brilliant. Love the music and I love the atmosphere when playing this game. And that's my number 1 Mickey game. So there you go. Okay folks, I hope you liked my video. Please press that like button and leave a comment, but please remember that this game review of these games is just a little bit of fun and it's only my opinion. Just remember, my opinion may not be yours and it's absolutely fine not to agree with me. Remember, it's a personal experience. I mean, that's what gaming reviews is at the end of the day. It's just a personal view and it's based on my experience and I'm sharing that with you good people. So let's not get all annoyed. It's just a gaming review. However, you can certainly leave your comments, even the geeky ones. Geek. Also, finally, it would be great for you to subscribe to my little retro gaming channel. I can see and I'm very pleased that I've just passed that 1,000 subscribers. Wow! That's brilliant and thank you very much for doing that. Thank you very much. So, until my next video, have a good day everybody. Take care. Bye bye.